Hello and welcome to episode 118 of the Adoption Fostering Podcast with me, Scott Cass and Rennie, and
Al Coates. There you go.
Bit of a delay there. Do you think I was going to start coughing?
I thought you were going to have some sort of incident and I was going to have to form an intervention.
Oh, so it was part of my kind of introduction banter-ish stuff. Yeah.
Nice.
How are you, Al?
I'm really well, though I have to confess that I've literally reached the zenith of my 20-year descent into total parenting madness this week, where I've reached the point where I no longer I'm no longer prepared to let my children have access to nice cutlery. I've taken teaspoons off of them.
Nice cutlery.
Yeah, I have. This is a totally rational response to a totally preposterous, unacceptable turn of events. So I don't know about you, but my children have this, teaspoons disappear in my house. They just disappear. Right? So I like nice cutlery. I have this feeling that nice cutlery is really important. That actually, if you can eat a meal with nice cutlery, it makes the meal nicer. Is that a fair point?
Right, okay.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. Matching, nice, yeah.
Yeah, nice, quality cutlery.
Clean.
So, clean, yeah.
Polished, yeah.
It's just the simple things I'm after. I'm not asking for a lot. And what I've noticed is that over the years, we've had a couple of sets over the years we've been married, and the teaspoons, I particularly like nice teaspoons. They make me happy. But we've gone from having 16, or 2 sets of 8 that matched. We are now down to 3.
Yeah.
And I lost the plot because I found that that they go in yogurt pots into the bin. They eat them.
Yes.
They take them to school, and they like the good ones, don't they? They leave the rubbish ones and take the nice ones to school and then throw them at some kid's head or something. So I said to Mrs. Coates, I said, right, go and buy a couple of dozen cheap, chatty, Eastern European, printed out of sheet metal, stainless steel, tatty teaspoons, and I've dumped them in, and I've literally got the rest of them. I've taken them, and you have to sign them in and sign them out. It's as simple as that. I've just gone mental.
Wow. Do you know what? I never thought I'd hear you rant about teaspoons, but I think that's a very interesting thing because I'm not quite as passionate and flamboyant as you are about it, but I have favourite spoons, okay, because I don't drink a small mug of coffee. Okay, I drink a larger mug of coffee. Yeah. Now, with a larger mug of coffee, you have to put more coffee in for it to be that larger coffee. You don't just put a little...
Totally.
Yeah, it has to...
Totally.
Yeah. So, Tris and I, when we first met, we had a lovely... Because, when you first meet somebody, you're all lovely and it's all nice and you want nice things.
Shiny.
And, you don't have kids back then. Yeah, exactly. So we bought this amazing cutlery set, and it was a kind of, I don't know if you remember them, they had the blue handles. Well, you could get them in all different colours, but the spoons were and they had the handle and they were proper and you could properly hold them. Yeah. I don't know if you remember style. And these teaspoons I have never been able to find since, and they are bigger than your standard teaspoon, but they are a teaspoon. Now I only have 2 of these left, so when I see them going into packed lunch boxes to go to work, I'm a little bit like and I kind of go, can you make sure that comes back, please? Because if those teaspoons go missing, that means I have to get rid of my big coffee mug. And if I have to get rid of my big coffee mug, there's going to be trouble. There's going to be war, actually.
So exactly. So we have a 3-tier system now with teaspoons. We have the cheap, chatty ones that I don't give a flying fig what you do with. I mean, I don't particularly want to have to spend money on flying. Then we've got the grade 2 ones that they are sort of stamped out of steel sheets, but they're slightly rounded. And then we've got the tier 3 category ones that are just the top drawer, weighted, moulded, shipped, polished, and the little rascals are not
just
having them. None of them.
C.
Oh, not even her. Yeah, that's it. They're mine. No. Unless you sign them in or sign them out.
Have you actually got them in a locked drawer then? I bet you have.
They're in my office now. They're not having them. Look at them. Yeah, it's not having them. Look there. Look, I've got 2. You can hear them, can't you? Look there. Look. I'll show you one.
That's quality. That's quality teaspoon. Yeah.
Look at the weight on that. Yeah. Look at that. Yeah. I tell you, I'm going to
put chunky. Yeah.
I'm going to put photographs.
I'll send you a photograph of mine as well.
Right. Send it to me and we'll put it in the podcast notes.
They look a bit scabby now, but that's why. Yeah.
We'll
Yes.
put it in the show notes. Absolutely, 100%.
Yes. Well, I'm really pleased you shared that with me. Really pleased. You've cheered me up.
No one tells you that in the preparation groups, do they?
No, they don't. Mind your teaspoons.
Yeah. Maybe we should get them on bits of string or something. Chain. That's not a good look for when your social worker comes round.
Like you say, sign it out on a chain round their neck, and if they lose it, then they have to eat their yogurt with their fingers. I don't know if that would be more hassle or what, but anyway.
Yeah. Welcome to your new mum and dad. Yeah. Here's your issue cutlery and your plate, and if you lose it, it's on your own head.
Well, who says it's not like that for them anyway?
Well, there you go.
Well, there's a discussion.
I feel like
anyway.
We've
I know.
gotten into the long grass before we even.
We have, yeah,
got anywhere.
And tonight's podcast is a good one as well because we've got an interview, and one that I'm just dying to get your reflections on when we've listened to it again because the just the hilarity of typical Al Coates MBE and his. Yeah, if you want to speak to him, we'll speak to him. I've got my thoughts on it. Honestly, like if you think the teaspoons is around, you should have heard him about some guests.
I'm mortified. I'm deeply embarrassed. My attitude
I go with
stinks.
my gut instinct. Yes, it does actually, because you tend to get more guests on than I do, but when I get one, I get a good one. And this.
You're saying my guests are not good?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I'm very choosy. And I will only invite people on that I think are worthy to come on.
So you're saying my guests are bad?
No, all our guests are amazing. You know that. But my point is, when I suggest somebody and he screws up his face, it's like, oh, okay. And there's my inner saboteur going, you're not good enough for this, Scott. You shouldn't be doing this, Scott. Yes, Scott. Yes, Scott. Yes, Scott. And then within 10 minutes of interviewing somebody, we come off and he's like, well, anyway, let's put the interview on and then we can reflect on it. But we talked to the founder of Madlug, which is I'm sure Dave will mention it. Does he mention it? Yeah, he does, doesn't he?
Yeah,
he mentions what Madlug is, and everybody should know what. If you're listening to this, you should know what Madlug is, and if you don't, then shame on you.
Yeah, but he gives the origin story.
Yes, he does. And he's a really, really genuinely chatty guy, and his interview is amazing. And so should we put it on?
Let's put it on.
And talk afterwards. Yeah.
For sure.
Fabulous.
We are this evening speaking to Dave Linton, who is the CEO. Are you the CEO of Madlug?
Some say that, and some say just anybody, So,
we're speaking to Dave Linton, who's changes the paper in the photocopier at Madlug.
Perfect.
Excellent.
I think the word you're looking for is founder of Madlug.
Founder.
That's what the website says, anyway. Yeah,
we'll go with founder. Mm-hmm. Setting the tone here for a serious, in-depth interview. So, hello, Dave. Welcome to the podcast, and I apologise for everything that's happened before now and everything that happens after this. Scott has invited you on because Scott knows you and he's kind of met you a few times. Could you tell us a little bit about who you are before we get on to what you are?
Yeah. So. My name's Dave Linton, live in Northern Ireland, married Judith. I'm an adoptive parent to one of my daughters, and with a birth child as well, birth daughter. So two daughters, a few dogs and cats, and that's who I am. 48 years of age, so not the youngest boy in town.
Excellent.
No, I would beat you on that one, I'm afraid. So there's not a kind of a massive amount of history between us, but your wife Judith used to be the director of Adoption UK in Northern Ireland, and whilst I never met her, I was aware of her. I knew she was there because I think she left quite soon after I started, maybe within the first year. And then we met at a Home for Good summit in Milton Keynes when Madlug was kind of, I mean, it was a couple of years ago now. But how long has it been going?
3 years ago. So Madlug's been on for six years.
Okay, so it was quite early on in terms of where you were. Yeah. So you say you're an adoptive parent.
Yeah.
And obviously, you mentioned your wife, who has been into all the adoption stuff as well. So, what, in terms of your family setup, when did you start looking at adoption and stuff like that? If you don't mind us asking.
Yeah.
Don't mind me asking.
No, that's great. So we, when I first met my wife, she was doing short break foster care. So she had a young teenager once a weekend. And then when we got married, I got approved and we did respite foster care.
Okay.
I don't like to use the word respite, but that's what it was called then.
Yeah.
And we had an 8-year-old come and she's now 26 and still comes and still a big part of our family. So once every month for a weekend. And now we get to do the support to her with her 3 kids as she's a single mum. So, so for us, fostering was a big part. And I think even before that, I think I kind of grew at the age of 5. I lost my dad. Grew up in a single home. Probably on that, if it hadn't been for significant people around, the neighbours, the people around that actually stepped into the place and kind of became non-blood aunts and uncles to me. My life could have been very different. So I think right back then, I knew what it was to be cared for, to be supported, and for my mum to be supported by lots of people. So it was always in me to support the underdog as a person, to be kind of looking out for the one on the edge in school and stuff. So whenever it was as an adult, I had gone in and become a youth worker at the time, and I was still in that kind of default of, I always loved hanging out and being with the young people who were always the ones that were seen as the troublemakers and so forth. So when I got married, it was very easy then to go and actually, I just wanted to help, and this was something that was always in me to, how can we use our house? How can we support children? So that was kind of the start. And then as a couple, we probably found that, we had some challenges maybe with the whole idea of our natural was we were always going to adopt, to be honest. It was on from day one of marriage. We were like, yeah, we're going to adopt. But we were kind of taking it as, let's have a birth child and then adopt.
Right, okay.
And we had some challenges there and at that time. And for us, it wasn't an issue. It was like, let's just adopt them. Back to the place where the local trust here, or local authority equivalent was like, well, this is too fast. You should have really gone through the grieving stage of not having children. And they were like really trying to hold us back. Yeah. And we were like, no, we're on to this because this is something we're going to do anyway. And that was kind of how we got into adoption.
Well, that's really interesting because that's not that dissimilar to my kind of start point anyway. Can I ask about faith? I know you didn't come on to talk about faith, but I'm conscious that you were, we chatted jokingly about being at home for good and how I've been at home for good events as well, infamously. So where does faith fit into all of that? Because is that a big part of the motivation? And if you're not comfortable about talking about that, please don't feel pressurized.
Yeah. For me, faith has a huge part in the sense of my own faith from I was a young child. I became a Christian, and that was a huge part. But I think for me, the understanding of my looking out for the vulnerable, looking out for the orphan, looking out for is driven, and there's actually it's like being biblical or being over spiritual about it. There's one simple thing I live my life on, and that's simply in James. It says, this is what true religion is, to love the orphan and widows in times of trouble. I was an orphan, lost one parent, been supported. And so for me, I just carry that on. And so Madlug is simply, my whole heart in this is actually just to be generous with what I have and to show love and compassion to those on the edge, on that one little verse in James.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, good question. Yeah. Good answer.
Yeah. Thank you, both of you. So the one thing that that struck me when you were talking there, Dave, was well, maybe not necessarily the process, but the kind of setup of adoption in Northern Ireland is slightly different to the rest of the UK. In terms of not necessarily the assessment process, but in terms of what happens afterwards. I mean, it's maybe changed since you adopted. Forgive me, but what does the process look like in Northern Ireland, or what did it look like for you?
So we're adoptive parents. For nearly 14 years. So for whenever we were going through the process, it was you applied, you got interviewed, you went through the whole process, and then they went to panel and they basically said, what they would want. So we initially thought, well, we're not going to have children of our own, and we're quite happy for two sibling group to come, and so then what happened was it goes to panel, and then they came back and said, actually, we're not approving you for two children, we're approving you for one. Right. And it had to be under the age of, I think, 2. So we were in that kind of, it was very limited in what and at that stage we were thinking, oh no, why is this? But then what we didn't realize is, so that's the process we went. I know the process, just being on the edge of other friends and people adopting, is that there's a lot more of that, fostering or concurrent into adoption. That's probably becoming more norm if it's not the older children. So it has changed a lot from whenever we, even around contact and all of those issues. That has changed a little bit. But for us, then that was we were just told one child. And I remember Judith, my wife, going, I was over in England with a group of young people. It was one of those things where the 2 weeks introductions plan, where it was, you're going to meet your daughter. We had all these photographs and we were falling in love and kind of like, that's just beautiful. She's just beautiful. And as a result of that, I went to my last bit of work, and then we had booked a holiday for a week. I think it was either a week or 2 weeks in Spain, and just to have a holiday, and then we would start introductions. And it was a Friday. I was coming back on the Saturday. We were going up to Spain on the Sunday early, so there was no real time. And I remember my wife ringing and saying, I've just handed the keys in. I've got the replacement for my work, and I went and did a test, and I'm pregnant.
It's not funny.
No, it's not.
It was like, and we automatically go into, yikes, we had no time. It was Friday afternoon. Saturday, there was no time to contact any social workers to process, because I wasn't getting home this Saturday night. First flight, 6:00 in the morning, we were out to Spain. And we spent a week in Spain going, what do we do? And every sense of emotion, that sense of emotion, they're going to take this little girl who we've fallen in love with, who we've built and they're going to withdraw, and because you can't do it. And we were at that kind of place of, do we do what other couples do that are pregnant? Is you don't tell anybody until there's 10 week scan. Because so we had all this kind of stuff going on. Do we tell them? Because we knew that the placement would happen, would have been able to fight a case. But I think we just thought, well, we're just going to be really honest here, and we're going to keep building trust with the people in the process. We're not going to try and bluff our way or lead, go show integrity the whole way. And so we came home with that real fear. And I remember the social worker driving around of our house, Ken, here's the process. On Thursday you'll have an hour, and Thursday, and we says, well, something to tell you. And this poor social worker was just like, right, can I have a few moments? And went out to the car, and then came in, and she was like, nobody in Northern Ireland's ever had this happen before. It's people say, oh, it happens everyone, but it happens not generally after placement, but not on the day.
Yeah, no.
So it was one of those moments. Well, to be fair, we our probably naivety of thinking we can cope, and we're, I'm a youth worker, and my wife, we're really committed to this. We were able to talk them in, and it delayed the introductions by 2 days. So that for us was great, and we went back. However, if we were fighting somebody now, we would say, adoption's hard work.
Yeah.
And doing that with a pregnant wife, and the whole kind of that, and then the bringing a child in, and the older, because there was like 2 years of a difference. It was like, but now we know why we're only able to have one child, and we were so thankful they only approved us for one child.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a
story, that's not a story I expected you to come out with, to be fair. So thank you for that. We'll be marketing this podcast on an unusual story. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, something about bags.
Yeah, exactly. So so that was a couple of years ago. And like we were saying earlier, your wife was involved in adoption and professionally. And what then led you into 6 years ago, creating this?
Yeah. So I'd been 22 years as a youth worker at the time, and I was a youth worker in the faith space. So I worked for a church at the time with young people in a local village community. And part of that was we had moved then from Belfast into this rural 5 years before, and they provided a house for us to live. It was a bigger house than I could ever afford. Right. Double bedrooms, more than we needed. And we were in that kind of place where the girl that we have still connections, still part of our family, had kind of, come to the end. They no longer was seen as part of the, we didn't have a social work connected.
Yeah.
Aged out is the term that they use. And we had and we decided to take a year of a break from going through the process again, because we were still really committed to this young girl. And but because we had the space, we were really kind of is fostering something we could do again. And if I'm being totally honest, my wife and I are more practical than we are paternal. We're not earth parents of that nature. We're very much as kids need homes, let's support, let's be practical, let's do, and we're really committed. So if we say we're going to do it, we're going to follow through the easy times and the hard times. That's kind of our DNA a little bit. So we thought, let's reach out. Well, the kind of system kind of said, okay, you've had a break for a year. And at this time, Judith, my wife, was working in Adoption UK and doing training and helping people with all of the process. But because we had moved into a different local authority area, a local trust, we had moved from one trust that we were approved, and we had a break. They didn't know how to integrate, so they put us right back to the very start of the process.
Right.
With people who had no concept of fostering apart from, we want to just have a nice little child in our house and it'll all be nice.
Yeah.
And so it was a matter of simply, we went for 4 weeks to this course. It was probably, if I'm being totally honest, hopefully there's no social workers kind of like listening and feeling bad about this, but it was really bad training. When you're into training and communication, it was, ping pong with words on a PowerPoint. And I remember going, oh no, another week. And it was the same stuff that we had learned through adoption training, foster training, stuff. So but we had to do it. We just felt practical. We got to week 4 and they were looking at the whole subject of kids moving. And again, I'm in that mindset of just, let's get this over. Let's get back in the conversation. And as a result of that, they put a video on from Foster Network that had a video of a young girl. She was in a wheelchair, and she made a statement. Whenever we move, the trust don't give us suitcases. Sometimes foster carers loan us suitcase, but quite often our belongings are moved in black plastic bin bags, lose dignity. And I remember that kind of pain of, that is wrong, and I'm going to fix it. And that's kind of where Madlug kind of came from. It was a matter of, well, I'm a youth worker, I'll go back to the young people I'm working with, and I'll collect secondhand bags and give them into the local trust, and that'll deal with the problem. And it led to a whole kind of, there's 90,000 children across the UK in the care system, one moving every 15 minutes, and most have their belongings moved in black plastic bin bags, or today's plastic bin bag is plastic shopping bags.
Yeah.
And, that's huge. And me collecting bags from my young people isn't going to really make a difference there.
Yeah.
So that led into solutions and so forth.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, now you literally own or run a company that makes bags. And so the deal is that if people buy a bag from you, so what sort of bags do you sell? What's the deal? And how does that then impact on children?
I want the details.
Yeah.
I want the raw facts.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. So, I mean, I was faced with this situation of, okay, that collecting secondhand bags is going to really cut it. And then I couldn't get past this fact that the children in care, the young people, are no different from any other young person that I know. That it's normally adults have let them down, and that they have huge value and worth, and have the right to be treated with dignity. And being treated with dignity is for them giving them a brand new bag, not a second-hand bag, not a lesser thing than we would have ourselves.
Yeah.
And that led me to, well, okay, how do I get these new bags? One is, do I set up a charity? The problem with the charity was I'm dyslexic, so writing applications for funding was just going to be an absolute nightmare for me. Running a marathon when I like cake too much is going to be a nightmare for me. So there was this kind of like, it was a part of youth work that I really didn't like.
Yeah.
Of that part, and also to be fair on this, I never wanted to be a competitor in the care space. And so I knew that if I got something really sexy and really like this cool, innovative, and communicated it really well, all I would do is I would slice the funding pie that was already, it wasn't getting any larger from the organizations that were set up, fund independent, to do great work, who were already working. So that led into, could I use business? There's a Tom Shoe company in America that was buy a pair of shoes, give a pair of shoes, help it.
Yeah.
And I thought, could I do that with bags, bag for bag? And so that took me on this journey. Backpacks, gym bags, stuff that people are using nearly every day, school bags type stuff. And every time we sell one of those bags, we give a little pack away travel bag to a child in the care system for free. And we do that through local authorities. Why is the bag different, Al and Scott? It's different because we sat down with young people and who were care experienced and said, when are bin bags used? Why are they being used? And we got a whole load of feedback going.
Yeah.
Generally, it was unprepared space in social workers' cars. And they didn't want, at that stage, Madlug wasn't really known as much as it is maybe today. So they didn't want to have a logo on it for stigma. So we made it unbranded. We made it fold away so that 20 of these little folded bags can go into one bag opened. So there's no excuse for a social worker to not be ready. And that's been our mission. So every time we sell a piece of luggage or a bag, we give one of these bags. And on the bag, it says, "You are incredible. Value, worth, dignity." So we want to reinforce how incredible these kids are.
Cool.
And that's become a bigger part of our story, is with Journeyed Along, which I'll share with you maybe.
No, I mean, that's quite remarkable, really, just to go from a, like your mind is sort of semi-switched off in a training room, which we've all been there, and perhaps tomorrow when we do our conference, there'll be a lot of people. Anyway, but to then have that kind of like that flash light bulb moment where you think, I'm going to make a difference. And so has there been opposition to you doing that? Has there been people within the system that have said, no, we don't need that, we don't want that, we it's fine, we'll do it our way?
Yeah, I think in the earlier days, that was what people said would be the challenge of it. I think the naivety of me and stubbornness of me was, everybody would just love it. And, we went along and just done it. In the research, believe it or not, and I was talking to a charity this morning on this, the research that I kind of started to look at was that everything about black bin bags was based around America. Or there was one thing that was actually, the only thing I could find in the UK at the time of the research of the issue was actually the ban the bin bag campaign, which is about 15 years ago now. Mm-hmm. So and so that was kind of a key finding for me, in that in the UK, what happens is we're very policy driven. So we work really hard, we shout about it, we work hard to get policy on stuff. Yeah. And then once it's done, we're not great at the delivering of the policy, because there's another thing needs a policy. So it's just policy after policy after policy. Also within the care space, what happens is social workers, there's a huge, they don't stay around long. So you can't assume that something was dealt with 10 years ago is going to be in the minds of the people today, because a social worker trained today will not know about the ban the bin bag campaign and the policy agreements that were signed up to by local authorities. So, so what I did was I used that. Some of the opposition was, you had frontline social workers who were saying, bin bags are still happening, we see it. So my research at the front line was great. Yeah. But if you talk to assistant directors and all of that, what you got was, we've dealt with that. That was ban the bin bag. And we have that in policy. And then you had the challenge, and this is in every government department, is you've got that mid-level management who that was the challenge for us, because it wasn't the people it was just they were trying to quieten it, because it might get them into trouble, because they weren't actually, their bosses had thought it had been dealt with and they were the ones going to have to report it. So my strategy was simply bypass that and go to the top and start building trust. And we took the avenue of, if we're going to say we show value worth dignity to children in the care system, we're not going to show a lack of respect to incredible social workers, foster carers, because they're all doing amazing jobs. And we said, you know what? We're sitting around the table here, and actually you want to be seeing no child move for their life in a bin bag. Let's make that as the start, because your policy says that. So let us empower and enable you to do that. Here's the solution. So we never, that was a simple, and suddenly all it took was one director, two directors, and then they build up the confidence. And in the 6 years, people have seen we've not gone to radio shows with controversial people causing problems. We've actually been very true to showing value, worth, and dignity right across every aspect that we work.
I was thinking about this interview beforehand, and I was, I'll be honest, I was kind of slightly, not skeptical. Skeptical is the wrong word. Not in context of what you do, but in context of, is there a need? Because I've never, I'm not necessarily a frontline social worker. I work in a foster care agency, and we wouldn't let any of our young people be moved on with bin bags. It's just not what we do, and that's part of our ethos and value system. But we're small, so we can monitor that. But in big organisations, I'd never seen it happen. So I'd sort of, one criticism I'd sort of anticipated, or one question, would be, in you providing bags, are you kind of creating this environment where local authorities go, we don't have to do that because Madlug are going to tip up a bag, when actually it's something that they should really get their fingers out and sort out? But
yeah, I think
I'm not sure that's that you've made me think differently. So let you talk. Yeah.
I think there's an element that my thing was, once we give it for free. We've intentionally, we take no payment for any of the bags, because we don't want to be part of the system. We want to be a voice outside the system that champions the young person in the system. That's what our kind of thing. So although I believe that kids, like you talk to the people and they say, kids work best in family and stuff. We may have personal views in that, but we don't champion one. We champion the child in the system. And if we champion that they have huge value, then actions are better towards them. And that's kind of how, and we're using the bag to do that. But what we say is, give the bags free. This then can relieve the pressure off. So money isn't the reason why your social workers haven't got bags, because budget is stretched. So they've no excuse of that any longer. And if they have the money, we say use it on other things to show love and build into that system. So it's very countercultural what we're trying to do. because our funding model allows it. And it's driven, it's developed there. I'd say at the start, it was simply, how do we fund the giving of bags? That was simply the reason, set up a business to create the funding model. But actually, what has happened with the Madlug story has been that the care world, the care experience world, have absolutely jumped on and love what we do. Yeah. And they have nearly owned what we do. And as a result of it, there's nearly as much in the empowering society who know rarely anything about the care space to actually show love to children in the care space. Because the feedback we get from the care experience young people who talk to us, who send us notes, who messages through social media stuff, is that we often feel lost in a care system, that nobody sees us outside of the professional world, that we feel that people are paid to care, even in small fostering alliances. To a young person, they see that as payment. So in some ways, that professional, everything's payment. So we get to say, actually, people are paying to care, and people see you. And the love without words part of, when you carry a Madlug bag, that is like, that person cares for me. So even if you've never received one of our bags as a care experience young person, if you know about Madlug and know what Madlug stands for and what it's about, then that that person's for care experience young people.
Well, I think that's, in talking to you, that's the thing that's maybe flicked in my head, is that it's not about bags. Bags are incidental. And that's the thing that, and even if it just keeps that issue on the agenda, it means that other local authorities are going, actually, we need to get this right, because we don't want the shame of having to take Madlug bags. In one sense, we want to keep this issue sorted for our young people. But it's kind of saying that actually we need to maintain focus on these small things that matter, isn't it? It's redirecting our focus.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, it's the youth worker in me. It's the child and the young person at the center of this. And if I can have a vehicle that champions the children, I know that if I was working in a local community and the community have a stereotype and no information, I've never met a really amazing young person, that they're all amazing, but they've never had engagement with, then their preconceived ideas, there's antisocial behavior on my corner just by that young person standing. So I think Madlugs are our way of saying, let's break down some of these stereotypes and just say, let's celebrate young people in care. And we're only really scratching. Like, our dream is, and we've set up a foundation to start trying to do this, is we dream of buses and cities across the world having every child in care is incredible. We want to be a charity that's not going, support us for £3 a month so we can do our thing. We don't want to be focusing on Madlug at all. We want to be just saying TV ads. That we have dreams of this stuff. That you imagine a TV ad saying on Netflix going, or on YouTube going, children in care are amazing. And because if we can change society in that, we change the stereotypes. We empower, we put society pressure on services, because it's like, so when it hits the news, it's not like, that's when it's really, when they're put into unrelegate, or I've got a bit of a buzz with my dyslexia coming here, but that when you're talking about unregulated homes for 16-year-olds, society's saying that news item is actually stirring, that's wrong.
Yeah.
Rather than just, because those kids have value in the midst of that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're trying to do, is use, if Nike has a lot more power than somebody that, because they're known in their brand, and we have that's what we're trying to do. And anybody that's been following our story, we had IKEA, for instance, chose to buy 13,000 bags, and they give one of our backpacks to every one of their staff as a Christmas gift this year. They told every one of their staff how incredible children in care are through a little animation, because that's the Madlug story. And that's the kind of thing that we are doing. But our practical little simple act of love is in giving a bag to a child that says you're incredible on. That's the connector.
And I guess if you're accessing the platforms like IKEA, because let's face it, they're not the smallest company in the world, are they? Actually, they're probably one of the biggest companies in the world. If you're accessing that as a platform to be able to share that message, it doesn't matter which country. I mean, even though was that just UK and Ireland, or
UK and Ireland, yeah.
Yeah. So, but that in UK and Ireland, but you just don't know what that can help to do in other countries via that platform. You know, absolutely. IKEA is a big company.
Mm-hmm. And what it also did for the company was we, you know, basically IKEA's charity partner is Bernardo's, so they're really invested in care leavers. That's their whole kind of thing, and they've invested externally. So, you know, funding roles and jobs, and with Bernardo's to do specifics right across UK. But they had never thought of that they could be an employer of many care experienced people. And so the whole Madlug story got to unleash and free up that sometimes some of those co-workers were sharing their story because they were free to share their story through a simple bag. It's kind of like a lady wrote a note to us and said, you know, I bought one of your bags. I'm a school teacher. I was sharing in the staff room how amazing your company is and so forth. And there was an older teacher sitting in the corner, very quiet. And she eventually spoke up and she said, I wish there had been an organization like that when I was growing up. The staff didn't even know she had grown up in care.
Wow.
And this lady, for the first time, was able to be free in sharing her story. And again, that's the stuff. I never really decided for that, but actually we're seeing it have this message in everything that we're doing.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a rather enlightening conversation.
It has. Yeah, well, I think it has for you, Al, because, you know, like you said, you were skeptical. I think the word was that you used, even though you didn't want to use it, but that's one that you used.
Not skeptical. That's not fair.
I know. I said you didn't want to use it, but you brought it up. You said the word.
I'm just a curmudgeonly.
You are, honestly. He every time I invite somebody on, he's like, And I'm like, just you wait till they've been on, and I will change your mind. Seriously,
it's true.
Can I just ask though, because you mentioned the American kind of ideal, it's not an ideal. The kind of the message coming from America about the black bags and all that sort of stuff. And I remember watching the movie Instant Family, which is, I mean, it's almost true to life. I mean, there's a few things, but then it is Hollywood, so let's not go down that route. But there was black bags involved in that as well. So where do you see? And I'm just thinking, because you know you're in the UK and Ireland at the minute, and do you cover the whole of Ireland, or is it just in the north? Or
yeah, so I mean, we want to be an all island, so you know, kind of approach, and we try and put the Irish Republic of Ireland statistics and numbers and stuff in, so that we talk holistically UK and Ireland.
Yeah.
What we realize is the care system's very different in the Republic, and we don't really have have great knowledge of it, and to the point where we know this is, if we ever take it beyond the UK, what Madlug's doing is that the importance for us to create collaborate with charities and agencies in those countries, because it's easy for us in the UK because we have some idea of how that system works.
Yeah. Well, that was my next question. Really, was do you see this going further than just the UK and Ireland? Because it's a logical idea, and it's clearly making a difference. Because I see like people tweeting and hashtagging and all that sort of stuff when they receive their Madlug bag, and it just seems like a proper thing. And a company like IKEA, I mean, God, I just want to buy a kitchen from them. I don't, but like it'd be nice to get a bag as well. But you know what I'm saying? It's like they're massive. So where could this go for you? Do you want it to go there, or are you quite happy just
I think so. For me, the learning has been there's two things I'm kind of growing in. Is one is the kind of leading business and understanding what it is to be an entrepreneur and a business leader, and you have that aspect, and you're getting that input into your life in the sense of how do you grow, how do you make the business commercial to do what you want to do socially, and we're growing that, but the other part is so that part's going, let's grow this really, and then but the main part, and I can't get away from this, and it probably makes me a little bit different, is that the only reason I do business, the only reason I get out of bed in the morning is to help children care. That's the stuff. To be a dad and to love my own family, but actually the motivator in me is that's what I get at. That's why I do it. That's why I dream of bags, is so I can do this. So I do dream of it being bigger, but I only think we can do that, and we will do that once we get the giving right in those countries, or the giving channels right. So otherwise, it's just like it would probably enhance your skepticism.
I was just thinking
in the sense of, if I, the problem with social business is, I know this. I mean, I talk into business and social enterprises and stuff like that. Is if you do it because it's just a nice idea, it becomes about the feeling you get from it rather than the real impact. And the day that becomes Madlug is the day when we stop it, because we only exist, and we are there not to be heroes in this story, but we see it very much as we've found a solution to a problem. We're really focused on it. It's a very narrow solution to a big care system, but that keeps us, where do we play in the pitch? What's our part to play in this? And we get the opportunity of then enlightening society, who aren't the professionals, who don't know, or their only stereotype is Tracy Beaker or so forth. And we get the opportunity to tell them, and then to invite them into a story with a plan, which we've had a little bit of the privilege of creating, to enable the one person who buys one of the Madlug bags gets to play a part in making a difference in one other child's life. And so for me, that's that connecting that. So when we can get that right in America, where it's like people in New York are carrying Madlugs, but they know that the kids in New York know about Madlug and being impacted, then we're ready to go international. But it's quite a while. Give us 10 years.
Okay.
I'm just looking on the website, and I quite fancy a laptop bag, so I might. Does that count? If I buy a laptop bag, does a child get a?
Yeah, every bag. From a tote right up. The only thing that we do not do the bag for bag is anything like jumpers or drink bottles and things like that. And what we do is all the profit goes together, and then we give more bags at the end of the year with that stuff.
Well, that's smashing.
Well, it's very good, and I'm delighted you've come on, because I think that I've always been kind of intrigued about Madlug and where it came from and how it's going, really. So we will put the links to the website, your Twitter, and all that sort of stuff on this when it comes out, so people can actually go on and access. And I personally would encourage people to do it, because I think it's a fantastic idea, and I think that it can only kind of, there's constant, let's face it, there's constantly children coming into care. So it's going to be, just because there's been 1 million bags bought or whatever, that doesn't solve the problem, does it? It's kind of
40,000 children enter the care system every year.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's not the ones leaving and the ones moving within. Can I tell you guys one story before I?
Of course, can.
We start. We got time for that?
Only if you tell me why it's called Madlug.
Okay. Yeah. No problem.
I'd say that's quite obvious, but whatever.
It's make a difference luggage, and there was nothing smart about it. It simply was, as somebody who had never done this before, I googled how to create a brand, and it said you have to create either a new word, or you have to get a domain that goes, "We give kids bags" or something like that.
Yeah, something.
And I basically went, okay, so onto one of the domain registrations and went, okay, can I get dignity.com? Ready taken. I went through a whole pile and I thought, how do I tell a story? Make a difference. Okay, mad. And then you lug your bag around, luggage. And it was like, there's nobody in this space. I don't need money to market into it. And in fact, only people were with a little group of hipsters in America that were doing Unix kind of coding, a little community group. They had madlug.org, something Manix, Unix, something. It was something weird like this. And I thought, I'll knock them onto about page 3 or page 4 of search engine very quickly. To the point, they give up their domain, so they're no longer around, and we just purchased madlug.org.
So all that stuff about values and ethos, you've just totally where you crush some poor little coders in the USA.
Bless them.
Tell your story.
So it's just, I think this gives a context of what I've been saying about the importance, and not everybody will get this experience, but it will help understand that where Madlug is growing. So it start off with giving a bag just to fund the bag, but this is the kind of the story of the impact of people seeing. So like I was at a youth event in Northern Ireland, about 1,500 young people at it with their youth leaders. And in that event, we had been selling, like, it was a bit of a home for good type thing. So we had been having a stand for the last 3 years, and we put it up. It was about 300 young people we counted out of that 1,500 carrying Madlug bags. And I was kind of selling it. One of the youth workers came down to me and he says, I want to buy a bag for my wife. He was buying it. And as he was talking, he says, we have a guy in our group who's in foster care. And I thought, well, we normally give this little pack away bag. There's no risk of stigma in this event. He can have a backpack. Tell him to come down, choose a color backpack. He doesn't even have to talk to me because I don't want any of that awkward adult or feel good factor on me. Just tell him, choose the color, go and do it. And I'll give it to you for him. Well, the last day, this youth worker arrives down with the young guy and introduces me to this guy called Jay. And I said, Jay, what color bag would you like? So I'm colorblind. He says, what football team do you support? He chose a red bag. He took the red bag. And I says, Jay, tell me your story. He says, I'm 17 and a half years of age. I've been in care for 10 years. And in a 2-week period, I moved 15 times with my belongings moved in black plastic bin bags. He says, because I was involved with drugs, the placements were breaking down. I'm now in a foster placement that seems to be working. And he just says, thank you. He says, what you're doing is amazing. That was his response. And he kept saying, what you're doing is amazing. I looked outside this tent into the field, seeing all these young people. And tears came down my eyes because, when you give your life to something, and there's times where it's really lonely being an entrepreneur and driving and every day having the energy to get up and to do this. Tears came down my eyes to say, Jay, what's really amazing? And I had to apologize because of the tears. And he went, it's okay. I says, what's really amazing, Jay, is this. There are over 300 young people at this event. And they have chosen Madlug over other brands of backpacks they could be carrying. Why? Because every one of them believes that you are incredible. Jay smiled. He walked away. He came back later that evening, just as we were packing down our stand. He had a little girl that was kind of like half his height because he's quite a tall guy. And in the 22 years of being a youth, I've never seen any young person smile or glow. I still don't even know this girl's name. She didn't speak. She just smiled. It was this obvious of, the young person sharing to his best friend.
Yeah.
And I said, Dave, I've come back just to say thank you again. And this is a backpack. I came back to say thank you again. He flung his arms around me and gave me a huge hug. 17-and-a-half-year-old guy. As a result, a couple of days after the event, we get a message through Facebook. Hi, this is Jay. I met Dave Linton at this event. I've been giving it lots of thought. I love what you do. And I've decided that for my 18th birthday, I'm going to give all the money that I get to the work of Madlug so that other young people can experience what I have experienced. Something to me changed that day. And it was that moment of, this is not about a bag. This is about showing love and creating a movement that is showing love without words, empowering people in cities around the world, cities in every country, to impact local kids in every country, that we can change them. We can have a movement that makes it young people in the midst of this care system feel seen, feel cared for, feel loved, and we can hold to an account without battering them with big sticks. Social workers, foster carers, directors. Why? Because at the core of it, we're raising this value worth dignity piece. And that for me is that's Madlug in a nutshell. That's what we're trying to build now. This movement of carrying a bag, love without words, and making sure that no child carries their life in a bin bag.
Thanks for that. My eyes seem to be glowing a little bit. I mean, that's the kind of story that you want out of something like this, isn't it? You know, like for a 17 and a half, my God, even my 22-year-old couldn't do that. But, you know, a 17 and a half-year-old to come and kind of really make an impact on what you're doing and returning it is just, yeah, there's a message in there, surely.
But then there's the other part where we were in Brighton selling bags at one event, and there was a lady came up with a little pram, and she says, "I love what you do." And you see, from the first time I heard or connected with what you guys and heard your story, me and my husband started the process to become foster carers. And this is our first placement in this little baby. So you just think, yeah, we never set out to recruit foster carers and stuff. you know, to get people on adoption. We set out simply to say, children at the heart of this, and the rest of that stuff will become, you know, we do what we value, and what we value is what we do. And if we value kids, our actions will be something that's totally different than what maybe it is today for a lot of people. Yeah.
Dave, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
It has been eye-opening, inspiring, anti-skeptical. We really do appreciate it. Yeah, you should. And take care, and thank you. We will speak to you soon, hopefully.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Cheerio.
So that was Dave from... He's not just Dave from Madlug. He's actually got a really interesting story. So, Al, tell us. Explain yourself, please. Explain your...
Oh, it was a really busy week. It was a really busy week in my defence. And I'd interviewed lots of people, and I was having a really busy week at work, and I thought, I'm not sure I want to do this. And it's an interview, and I was maybe a little bit cynical about the whole, buy a bag, get a bag. Yeah. My attitude stank.
I think it's easy, but it's also easy. I mean, I know that and we've always talked about this from day one. The first time I remember we talked, actually, I was getting out of the car for work, and Hugh Thornbury, CBE, friend of the show, had put me in contact with you because we were doing stuff when we were creating Adoptive Voice and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I always remember you being so open and honest with me from that very beginning, and saying, if there's one I'm paraphrasing here, this is your exact words,
really scared what you're going to say.
Remember. And you said to me, if there's one thing I can't get my head around, it's organizations that get so big that they think that they have like the kind of the say in how things should be. Yeah, it was something along those lines. That wasn't the exact words, but it was, you were kind of saying there's lots of space here, but you know, one company, one charity, one
hasn't got the monopoly.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that's what you were trying to say anyway, or that's what I think you were trying to say. And I always remember that you from very early on, which was interesting because I worked for a charity that, you know, has a certain space, as do other charities. So that was interesting that we actually clicked at that point. And I think the thing is, I've known Dave a while. I've met him at a couple of places, as we were talking about. And I just think he comes from a place of personal experience. You know, he's we often say what motivates people to become parents, what motivates them to become parents through adoption, foster carers. And I just think that it was kind of something that was within him from an early age. And I think that we could debate this till the cows come home. And some people do on social media, and they kind of judge people on the fact that they are adopters or whatever. I just think it comes from a place of the morals and his faith and all that sort of stuff. It all contributes to why he's ended up where he is, and he's not asking for thanks, but he's decided to do something with what he had. It's an important cause he's trying to sing.
Well, I think it's quite a unique voice, isn't it? Because it's a unique way of doing it, and he just wants to show love without words, which I guess is one of the founding principles of his faith, Christian faith. But I guess he's actually doing something very practical and in some ways an aside to his faith. I'm sure he wouldn't probably explain it that way, but it was really helpful to kind of refocus on the realities of children's care, and I just found it really refreshing because actually it was, I don't know, he's got a very different voice, and he's inhabiting a very different space from a very different reason. And he's just a genuine guy, and he's a lovely guy, and he was very gracious to me because I was a cantankerous, miserable tour rag, wasn't I? So
he didn't see you beforehand.
He didn't see me half an hour beforehand, right? Like a stroppy teenager going, "I don't want to go."
Yeah, do I have to do it? No, and genuinely, I mean, both of them, him and his wife have been involved in things adoption-wise and fostering-wise for many years. So, I don't think it's, I don't think it'll just stop with this. I think that, if there's other stuff he thinks about, then he'll go on to be. Interestingly, he's done quite a bit since we spoke to him, because he's been on another podcast since, I think it was a podcast or it was an interview that he did. And I mean, genuinely, it was the same story. It was the same kind of message that he's trying to get over.
It's a good message.
I think. Yeah, and I think when I think back to when my children came to live with us, the black bag thing, it still goes on. We know it does because we hear about it and we see it, read about it. They didn't come with black bags, but it was interesting watching that process, not knowing and being very naive back then, because their foster carers went out and bought suitcases, which came out of their fostering allowance to be able to buy the suitcases, which we still have those suitcases, which I think is a really interesting thing, because it was recommended to them because that was the first time they'd moved the child onto adoption. But I guess, looking back on it, there was a couple of black bags that came. So I was saying, let's eradicate all black bags. These black bags had cuddly toys in them. Do we go and buy a suitcase for cuddly toys, or is when we move house, the cuddly toys all go into a black bag? Yeah. So I guess there's that's not the point, is it? Within it that we shouldn't overthink, but I guess. Who's responsible for that? Who's responsible for making sure that a child can move on in a way that's it's just mindful,
dignified, I think it's a great.
Not shoving there.
I think it is a great. It's a great campaign because it is focusing on children's need and the lived reality of children. And in some ways, it's not about, like he said, it's not about black bags. That is just a conduit for the message, really, isn't it? So, more power to his elbow, and go out, buy a Madlug bag.
Definitely.
Make a difference luggage.
He is a character, though. He is a character.
I feel like he would be fun to go out for a night out with. I feel like it would be a right laugh. Good crack.
Yeah.
There you go.
And of course, you say good crack is in Northern Ireland. I mean, we don't hear too often from people who've gone through that system in Northern Ireland, which is interesting given that the current state of play in adoption with adoption in Northern Ireland is that it's looking. There's a thing being submitted to the Assembly in Northern Ireland very soon about making changes to the 30-odd-year-old adoption policy that exists in Northern Ireland. So. It's very different over there.
Get you ahead of the curve on that. To be honest, I have no real knowledge of the Northern Irish system. I kind of, I mean, it's part of the United Kingdom, isn't it? But it's got its own, its own
Scotland,
legislation.
Wales are different. Yeah.
Well, there you go. Hey,
so maybe we'll look at that in a future podcast. But yes,
roving reporter Scott, word on the street from the outside. Newsflash, Scott from.
I mean, in fairness, right now, the situation in Northern Ireland is pretty dire, which doesn't seem to be coming across in news reports, shall we say? But there's lots going on up there. So
don't draw us onto the rocks of politics. That's a bit of a problematic issue. Well, we can if we want. So Scott, nicely proposed. So I mean, that's us. I mean, I there's always things we can talk about, but I feels like that was a fruitful episode. We've got a lot going on at the moment, haven't we? We've got lots of plans and plots and schemes. I was talking to.
There's no limits, no borders to our plans, is there? I mean,
no, there isn't. I see what you did there. We're hoping to kind of branch out a little bit, but maybe we should say that. Maybe we should keep our powder dry, and maybe do.
I think we should
keep our powder dry. So on that basis, have you got anything exciting happening in your life over the next few weeks? And then before we say goodbye, is there anything exciting going on in your life?
Tomorrow I start. I go back to school tomorrow.
Of course, I forgot. I really have forgotten as well.
I know, yeah. Which I'm quite excited about, but quite pleased it's online.
Especially with that
I could just imagine. Well, yeah, exactly. I start a digital marketing, proper qualification thingamabob course thing tomorrow.
Wow.
It's online, as everything is online. It's a proper full-time, term of learning. It's something I've wanted to do for ages and ages and ages, and just never found the time. And I think that I might be a year late because I could have probably done it a year ago. I like to take my time. I'm not going to be told when I'm doing stuff by anybody.
There's no rush.
So I start that tomorrow, which is exciting actually, because, like I say, I've got an interest. I've got a real genuine interest in stuff like that. I want to see how it works and how it all kind of develops and stuff like that. So we can
anticipate all kinds of flashy digital marketing ploys that the podcast is now going to be presented with as you call your homework.
Some of the course details, and it says preparation. I'm like, oh, balls, because I am terrible. I just have ideas coming in my head. Like on Saturday, I had this idea that we were going to join LinkedIn as the Adoption and Fostering podcast. So there I sat for an hour just sorting out the Adoption and Fostering podcast on LinkedIn. By the way, listener, we're now on LinkedIn, so type in Adoption and Fostering podcast on LinkedIn and you'll find it. And that's my biggest issue, is preparation and being, having the opportunity to kind of say, right, okay, so at this time I'm going to do that. And do that. So it'll be interesting to see what I learn about myself from it. If I find I'm totally useless, I'm always on time for things. I'm never late for things, but unless it's a recording of a podcast. But in terms of managing my time, I'm very bad at it because I just get so distracted into more interesting things. By
the shiny things on the telly.
Yeah, I'm like a magpie. If there's something sparkling in the corner, I'm off.
Oh, well, that's exciting. That's exciting.
And, so there you go. What about you? Anything exciting coming up?
Well, actually, I almost forgot, but I'm going to a roundtable event in relation to child-to-parent violence, childhood challenging violent aggressive behaviour. So I've been invited to attend a roundtable event for the British Association of Social Workers, which is quite interesting.
Ooh,
and I'm not really sure why. I just kind of got an invite, come here, be online at this URL at 10:30 on this day. Bit suspicious.
Maybe it's a ploy. Maybe they're getting ready to strip you of your social work powers.
Maybe it's an intervention. Just come here, it'll be fine.
Okay, we've been inviting him to stuff for years to get rid of him, and let's do something that he can't refuse to do.
Can't wonder why Paul is there.
That's an interesting space to be inhabiting. Then you seem to be getting all the invites. I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
Wow.
Because I'm not a social worker.
That might be it. Oh, I keep my head above water. Don't worry. No, so that's interesting. And a few of the irons in the fire that hopefully kind of just want to kind of progress that discussion. I feel like I've taken my foot off a little bit in relation to that. So I'm just thinking about what to do. I'm having a very pensive month, I feel. I'm thinking, I'm plotting and scheming.
See, I don't like those sorts of months for you because it just means more work.
Well, I'm feeling very subdued and thoughtful about how to play this all out. But I've had some really interesting conversations with some people who, just in relation to what we need to be thinking about, and it's really encouraging because I feel like I was thinking about the landscape generally, and I was thinking across all. If you look back a year, and you think that so many organisations have had to really raise their game over the last year.
Yeah.
Look at, not going to name any names, but it's obvious that people have said, actually, we need to support families in a different way because actually we can't physically go out to them. So ways that they relied upon have actually meant that they've got themselves into so many more corners. And it's made me reflect, well, in a lot of ways, the space we inhabited, which was sort of an online support space, which is what we were, as downloads, seeing lots of people move into that space and thinking, well, what do we do? Do we just stay here and kind of just as it gets crowded, or do we do some other stuff and we start to do our stuff? And because, as you say, it's mostly a hobby, but, both of us are quite fond of money, and the way our children go through cutlery, I mean, literally, I think it grows on trees. So really sort of trying to work out what we do with ourselves, because I think that our remit, we don't have a code of ethics or values. We don't have a mission statement, but we've
just got our own morals. We have got our own morals, and that's about it, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I've got my social work morals as well, which will hopefully align with my own personal ones. But just trying to think, well, what do we do as a I was going to say as a couple. We're not a couple. As a partnership. That's a better way, isn't it?
Yes, that's nicer.
What do we do because we really enjoy what we do, and we really enjoy kind of stretching things and pushing things, and just seeing that actually one of the challenges is that as we push into things, that sometimes people come in behind us, and that kind of creates a need for it. And that's maybe not, I don't want to sound arrogant when I say that, but thinking about certain issues that we've pushed, then see that those have now been totally taken over by lots of other organisations, thinking, well, what's the next thing? Because I don't want to be just, and I don't want to do it just for the sake of doing it. We'll keep doing it as long as we enjoy it. So all of those things are really ruminating around my head about what is our focus, what are we trying to achieve, and all that kind of stuff. So interesting.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah,
So. But maybe I think we're probably going to, by the time this goes out, we might have done a webcast where we maybe stretch out some of those thoughts a bit further. So
yes,
we'll see how that goes.
Yes,
maybe we will. Well, I think we probably will have if we can get around to it. Anyway. Well, anyway, I feel like I've said more than I want to say. So
you did, yeah, and it was really boring. I switched off. I was on my phone checking Twitter. So
again, whatever.
But if you're still listening, there's some funny outtakes coming up.
Oh, there's some rip snorting outtakes. Man goes mad over cutlery. Well, look after yourself, my little cheesy bean. And shall speak to you soon.
Yeah.
Bon Jovi.
Anchovy.
Honestly, it's not funny. Do you know, it really winds me up. And honestly, I go full on Battle Faulty with it. I do. I follow them round and I go, what the heck do you think? Do you think spoons grow on trees?
Yeah, I know.
So the other day, there's an ice cream. What's her face takes a ice cream tub up, and then I nag her for 2 days. Bring your stuff down. She still brings it down. It's rattling. She throws it in the bin. So one, it's recycling. So she throws it in the recycle bin, dirty. It's opened up and there's a spoon in there. Yeah.
I need to edit this episode, so you need to send a thing to me so I can put things in at the end and stuff, because you're very passionate about this teaspoons, aren't you?
Cutlery is really important, because the thing with cutlery is that cutlery can make an average dinner good, and it can make a great dinner amazing, because it just is all part, and it's all part of this idea of find something that you like in every day. So actually having a yogurt is nice, but having a yogurt with a nice spoon makes something special. It makes something, so it's getting enjoyment out of something in the day. You go, I really like that spoon. I pick that spoon out of the drawer and I go, I really like it. And that lot are all throwing them all in the bin after me as fast as I can go. Honestly, they're trying to kill me. They are. They are. They're psychologically damaging me on purpose. They know what's happening to me. I'm like Basil Fawlty in the kitchen, and they're all giggling.
Yeah. I can imagine they are, actually. Yeah.
Oh, you've met my children.
Yes, I have. Yes.
It's like,
and I've also seen you have a little bit of a
Basil Fawlty.
Basil Fawlty moment. Not an extreme one.